General Jake Morrison walked through the mining tunnels of Kepler 442b with steady steps. The air was thick and hot, but he had been in worse places. Behind him, 3 soldiers followed quietly. They were checking the colony's defenses, as they did every few months. The mining colony was not much to look at. Gray metal buildings sat between rocky hills. Workers moved back and forth, carrying tools and supplies. Most of them were humans who had come here to find a better life. They worked hard in the deep tunnels, pulling valuable metals from the ground. Jake had been visiting colonies like this one for 2 years now. Each time, he talked to the workers and their leaders. He listened to their problems. The biggest problem was always the same: taxes. The Zephyrian Empire demanded more and more money from the human colonies. The workers barely had enough food after paying what the Empire wanted. On the other side of the galaxy, Emperor Kethver sat in his golden throne room. The walls were covered with pictures of his victories. Servants moved around him like shadows, afraid to make noise. In front of him stood Prime Minister Velfara, a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms. "The human general is becoming a problem," Velfara said. Her voice was smooth and cold. "Our spies report that he has been to 15 colonies in the past year. Each time he visits, the workers become more difficult to control." The Emperor's red eyes looked at the reports on his desk. Jake Morrison's face stared back from several photos. The human looked ordinary: brown hair, steady eyes, and a simple uniform. But the Emperor knew that ordinary looks could hide dangers minds. "What do our agents tell us about him?" the Emperor asked. "He fought in the Martian Independence War 10 years ago," Velfara answered. "He was very good at planning battles. His soldiers trusted him completely. After the war, he became quiet. We thought he was no longer a threat. But now he talks to colony leaders about working together. He tells them they don't have to accept everything the Empire demands. Some colonies have already started paying less taxes. Others have stopped sending their young people to work in our factories." The Emperor stood up from his throne. He was twice as tall as a human, with gray skin that looked like stone. When he was angry, his eyes glowed brighter. They were glowing now. How many humans follow him? We're not sure. He doesn't give speeches or start armies. He just talks to people quietly. But our spies say that more and more colony leaders ask about him. They want to know what he thinks about Empire policies. The Emperor walked to a large window. Outside, he could see his capital city stretching to the horizon. Millions of beings from hundreds of different worlds lived there. They all followed Empire rules. They all paid Empire taxes. They all accepted Empire control. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had kept peace in the galaxy this way. When problems appeared, they dealt with them quickly and quietly. Most of the time, people never even knew there had been a problem. "Send Vecmer," the Emperor said finally. Velfara's 4 arms moved in surprise. Vecmer was their best agent. He could change his shape to look like any species in the galaxy. He had ended dozens of problems for the Empire, and no one had ever caught him. "You want the general dead?" she asked. "I want the problem ended, quietly. Make it look like an accident. A mining explosion, perhaps, or a system failure on his ship. Something that will not make other humans angry. It will be done, my Emperor." Back on Kepler 442b, Jake was finishing his inspection. The colony's leader, a tired-looking woman named Carol Davis, walked beside him. "General, I have to ask you something," she said. "The Empire inspector was here last week. He said our taxes are going up again. We can barely pay what they want now." Jake stopped walking. "What did you tell him?" "I said we needed time to think about it." He didn't like that answer. He said colonies that don't cooperate sometimes have accidents. Jake's face became hard. This was the same story he heard at every colony. The Empire used fear to control people. They made threats and sometimes carried them out. Carol, how many other colonies have talked to you about this? 7 or 8. We've been sending messages back and forth. Some of the colony leaders want to meet and discuss what we can do. This was exactly what Jake had been hoping for. The human colonies were starting to work together. They were tired of being afraid. Set up the meeting, he said. I'll be there. That night, Jake slept in the colony's guest room. The building was old, and the walls were thin. Around midnight, he heard a small sound. It was the kind of sound that shouldn't be there. Jake had learned to trust his instincts during the war. He rolled out of bed quietly and grabbed his weapon. The room was dark, but he could see a shape moving near the door. The shape was wrong. It looked human, but it moved in a way that humans didn't move. Jake waited until it came closer, then turned on the lights. The creature in front of him looked like a colony worker, but its eyes were the wrong color. When the lights came on, its skin began to change. Jake could see its real form, gray skin, long arms, and teeth like needles. Vecmer, Jake said. He had heard stories about the Empire's shape-changing agent, but had never seen him before. The alien hissed and jumped toward Jake. They fought hard in the small room. Vecmer was fast and strong, but Jake had fought aliens before. He knew their weak spots. When the fight was over, Vecmer lay on the floor, breathing hard but alive. Jake had been careful not to kill him. Dead agents couldn't answer questions. It took 3 hours to make Vecmer talk. When he finally did, Jake learned everything. The Emperor had sent the agent to kill him. The Empire saw Jake as a threat. That needed to be removed quietly. Jake looked at the alien agent and made a decision that would change everything. Instead of calling the Empire authorities, he activated his communication system. Within minutes, he was connected to every human colony network in the galaxy. His message would reach millions of people. My name is General Jake Morrison, he said into the camera. An hour ago, the Zephyrian Empire tried to murder me. They sent their best agent to make it look like an accident. But I'm still here, and I have proof of what they tried to do. He held up the evidence, recordings of Vecmer's confession, photos of the alien's real form, and communication logs from the Imperial Palace. The Emperor tried to end me quietly, Jake continued, but I will answer boldly. It's time for humanity to stand up. It's time for us to work together. The Empire thinks we're weak because we're scattered across many worlds. Let's show them how wrong they are. The message spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On Earth, on Mars, on hundreds of colony worlds, humans watched and listened. Many of them had been waiting for someone to speak the words that Jake had just said. The quiet war was over. A bold war was about to begin. Captain Lisa Park was drinking coffee on the bridge of her ship when the message came through. The horizon was 3 days out from the galactic core, running what the Empire called a routine patrol. In reality, Lisa and her crew were watching Empire fleet movements and reporting back to Earth. The communication officer, a young man named Pete Collins, looked up from his screen with wide eyes. Captain, you need to see this. It's coming through on all human networks. Lisa watched Jake Morrison's broadcast twice. The first time, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The second time, she felt anger rising in her chest. The Empire had tried to murder a human general. They had tried to do it quietly, like killing a bug. Pete, get me Admiral Hayes on Earth. Emergency channel. Yes, ma'am. While Pete worked, Lisa thought about what this meant. She had met Jake Morrison once, at a military conference on Mars. He seemed like a good man who cared about human colonies. Now the Empire wanted him dead just for talking to people. The communication screen lit up. Admiral Hayes appeared, looking tired and angry. Behind him, Lisa could see other officers moving quickly around the Earth Defense Command Center. Lisa, I assume you've seen Morrison's broadcast? Yes, sir. What are your orders? Turn your ship around. Head for Morrison's location as fast as you can. Take your battle group with you. Lisa looked at her tactical display. She had 12 ships under her command, not enough to fight the Empire's main fleet, but enough to make a statement. Sir, if we leave our patrol area, the Empire will know something is wrong. Let them know, Hayes said. His voice was hard. We're done pretending everything is normal. The Empire just showed us what they really think of humanity. It's time to show them what we think of that. On Earth, President Andrew Hayes sat in an emergency meeting with the Human Colonial Council. The room was full of representatives from colonies across the galaxy. Some appeared on screens, others sat at the long table. All of them looked worried. We've all seen General Morrison's evidence, President Hayes said. The question now is, what we do about it? Mary Johnson from the Mars colonies spoke first. Mr. President, this changes everything. We've been trying to work with the Empire for 20 years. We've paid their taxes, followed their rules, sent our young people to serve in their factories. And this is how they repay us? The evidence is clear, added Robert Clark from the asteroid mining stations. They see us as a problem to be managed, not as partners. How many other human leaders have they killed quietly over the years? President. Hayes nodded. That's what worries me too. How many accidents weren't really accidents? How many ship failures were actually murders? The representative from Europa, Dr. Nancy Adams, raised her hand. I've been looking at our records. In the past 5 years, we've lost 14 colony leaders and military officers in various accidents. The Empire investigated each case and found no evidence of foul play. Because they were the ones doing the foul play, said Colonel Frank Miller from the Luna Defense Force. Mr. President, we can't let this stand. If we do nothing, Morrison will be dead within a week, and the Empire will go back to killing us one at a time. President Hayes looked around the room. He could see the same thought in every face. Humanity had reached a crossroads. They could bow down to the Empire and hope for mercy, or they could stand up and fight for their right to exist. All in favor of supporting General Morrison and his actions? Every hand went up. Every screen showed a raised hand. It was unanimous. On the other side of the galaxy, Emperor Kethvar was having his own emergency meeting. Prime Minister Velthara stood before him, along with Admiral Zeke Thul, the commander of the Imperial fleet. How did this happen? The Emperor demanded. Thekmer has never failed before. The human was more skilled than we expected, Velthara replied. Our agent is alive but captured. Morrison has made him talk. Admiral Zeke Thul was a massive alien with thick armor covering his body. His voice sounded like grinding stone. My Emperor, we should have sent the fleet from the beginning. Humans respect only force. I wanted this done quietly, the Emperor said. Now the entire galaxy knows we tried to assassinate a human general. 3 species have already sent messages, asking for explanations. What do they matter? The Admiral asked. We are the Empire. We don't explain ourselves to anyone. They matter because they pay taxes too, Velthara said. If other species start thinking we murder their leaders, they might stop cooperating with us. The Emperor walked to his window again. His capital. City looked the same as always, but he knew things were changing. Morrison's broadcast had reached every corner of the galaxy. Even non-human species were talking about it. What are the humans doing now? He asked. Earth has called an emergency council meeting, Velthara reported. Our spies say they're discussing a response to Morrison's broadcast. Several human military units have left their assigned positions and are heading toward Morrison's location. How? Many ships? At least 50 so far, maybe more. Admiral Ziegthal laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. 50 ships? My Emperor, I have 1,000 ships ready for battle. Let me crush this rebellion before it grows larger. The Emperor thought for a long moment. He had two choices. He could try to make peace with the humans, admit the Empire had made a mistake, and hope the situation would calm down. Or he could show the galaxy what happened to species that defied the Empire. Admiral, prepare your fleet. But don't attack yet. First, we give the humans a choice. Back on Kepler 442b, Jake Morrison was preparing for what came next. Carol Davis had evacuated most of the colonists to emergency shelters. The ones who stayed were volunteers who wanted to help defend the colony. General, we've got ships incoming, reported Sergeant Bill Thompson, Jake's communications officer. Captain Park's battle group will be here in 6 hours. Good. What about other colonies? 12 colonies have declared independence from the firm. Empire in the past 4 hours. More are expected to follow. The mining stations at Ceres and Vesta have joined together and say they're sending supply ships. Jake nodded. This was what he had hoped for, but it was also what he had feared. Once humans started standing up to the Empire, there would be no going back. Sir, we're getting a transmission from the Imperial fleet, Thompson said. It's Admiral. Ziegthal himself. Put him on screen. The alien Admiral's face appeared on the monitor. His small eyes glowed with anger, and his massive jaw was set in a threatening expression. Human Morrison, the Admiral said, you have caused enough trouble. Surrender yourself to Imperial justice, and your colonies will be spared. And if I don't surrender? Jake asked. Then we will remind the galaxy why the Empire has ruled for 3,000 years. Your colonies will burn. Your ships will be destroyed. Your species will serve as an example to others who think they can defy us. Jake looked directly into the camera. He knew his words would be heard across the galaxy, by humans and aliens alike. Admiral, my name is General Morrison, not human. Morrison, I am a citizen of Earth and a defender of human colonies. Your Emperor tried to have me murdered in my sleep. That tells me everything I need to know about Imperial justice. The Admiral's face became even angrier. You dare refuse the Empire's mercy? I don't see any mercy in your offer, Jake replied. You want me to surrender so you can kill me publicly instead of privately. The only difference is the size of the audience. Then you have chosen death for your species. No, Admiral. I've chosen life. Real life, not the half-life of slaves pretending to be free. Come and take me if you can. The screen went dark. Jake turned to face his officers. They all looked nervous, but none of them looked ready to quit. Gentlemen, we've just made the Empire very angry. They're going to come at us with everything they have. But I want you to remember something. We're not fighting just for ourselves. We're fighting for every human colony in the galaxy. We're fighting for the right to live as free people. Sergeant Thompson raised his hand. Sir, what if we lose? Jake smiled. Then we lose fighting on our feet instead of dying on our knees. I'd rather die as a free man than live as a slave. Outside the colony, the first human ships began to arrive. Captain Park's battle group took defensive positions around the planet. More ships kept coming, cargo vessels converted to carry weapons, mining ships loaded with volunteer fighters, even some luxury yachts whose wealthy owners had decided to join the fight. Jake watched them arrive and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The Empire had tried to end him quietly, with poison in the dark. But humanity's answer was anything but quiet. Their answer was bold, loud, and growing. Stronger by the hour. The war for human freedom was about to begin. Commander Rick Stone stood on the command deck of his mining ship, the Iron Mountain. Around him, 23 other mining vessels hung in space near Titan. They were not warships, but Rick was about to turn them into something close. "Listen up, everyone," Rick said into his communication system. "I know these aren't military ships. I know most of you signed up to dig metals out of asteroids, not to fight wars. But the Empire just tried to murder General Morrison for talking to colonists about their rights." Rick could see the other ship captains on his screen. Some looked scared. Others looked angry. All of them looked determined. "My daughter lives on New Colorado," said Captain Janet Foster from the mining ship. "Boulder Breaker. The Empire takes 60% of everything we mine here. 60%. My little girl barely has enough food because of their taxes. If they'll murder a general for standing up to them, what will they do to the rest of us?" "That's exactly right," Rick said. "We've got mining lasers that can cut through solid rock. We've got cargo holds that can carry supplies to Morrison's people. And we've got something the Empire doesn't understand. We've got nothing left to lose." The Titan Irregulars, as they would later be called, began their journey toward Kepler 442b that same day. They weren't fast ships, and they weren't pretty, but they carried the hopes of thousands of workers who were tired of being afraid. On Europa, Dr. Amy Carter was working late in her laboratory when the news about Morrison reached her. She had been studying alien technology for 15 years, trying to understand how Empire devices worked. Most of her research was supposed to help humans build better mining equipment and communication systems. But Amy had been working on something else, in secret. For the past 2 years, she had been trying to crack the encryption codes that the Empire used for their military communications. It was illegal for humans to even attempt such work, but Amy had never cared much about Empire laws. Now, with Morrison's broadcasts spreading across the galaxy, Amy realized her secret work might finally be useful. "Computer, show me the captured aliens' equipment," she said. The laboratory's main screen displayed images of everything found in Nekmer's possession. There were weapons, communication devices, and something Amy had never seen before, a small device that looked like a data storage unit. "Computer, can we access that storage device remotely?" "Negative. The device is protected by military-grade encryption." Amy smiled. "Well, it's a good thing I've been studying military-grade encryption for 2 years. Let's see what secrets our shape-changing friend was carrying." It took Amy 18 hours of non-stop work to break the encryption. When she finally succeeded, what she found made her heart race. The device contained detailed information about Empire military capabilities, ship designs, weapon systems, and strategic plans. "Oh my," Amy whispered as she read through the files. "Morrison needs to see this right away." Meanwhile, on the asteroid, Mining Station Ceres, a quiet engineer named Sam Rodriguez was having the most important conversation of his life. He sat across from Station Chief Helen Park, who happened to be Captain Lisa Park's sister. "Sam, you've been working these asteroids longer than anyone," Helen said. "If we're really going to support Morrison, we need to think about supply lines. How do we keep human forces fed and armed when the Empire controls most of the shipping?" "Routes?" Sam pulled up a holographic map of the asteroid belt. Thousands of small rocks floated in the display, each one marked with different colors to show what minerals they contained. "Chief, what if I told you we could hide enough supplies to support a war for years, and the Empire would never find them?" "Hide? Say you've been spending too much time in zero gravity." Sam laughed and pointed to several small asteroids on the map. "These rocks are too small for major mining operations, but they're perfect for hiding supply depots. We drill storage chambers inside them, stock them with food, weapons, and fuel, then seal them up. From the outside, they look like any other asteroid." Helen studied the map. How many could we set up? Hundreds, maybe thousands. The Empire has big ships that need big ports. They can't check every small rock in space. We could build a supply network that stretches across the galaxy, all hidden in plain sight. Sam, that's either brilliant or completely crazy. Sometimes there isn't much difference. The work began immediately. Mining crews across the solar system started converting small asteroids into secret supply depots. It was dangerous work that had to be done quickly and quietly, but the miners knew how to keep secrets from the Empire. On Earth, President Hayes was dealing with the biggest crisis in human history. Reports kept coming in from around the galaxy. The Andromedan Republic had officially protested the assassination attempt. The Crystalline Collective was asking uncomfortable questions about other accidents involving their leaders. Even species that usually stayed neutral were starting to ask if they could trust the Empire. "Mr. President," said General David Stone, the head of Earth's military forces, "we've got 100 ships heading toward Morrison's position, and more are joining them every hour. But that's not our biggest problem." "What is?" "The Empire is mobilizing their grand fleet. Our spies report that Admiral Zeke Thull has been given command of over 800 ships. They're planning to crush Morrison quickly and brutally to send a message to everyone else." President Hayes felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Every decision he made now would affect millions of people. "David, how long before the Imperial fleet reaches Morrison? 3 days, maybe 4. And our forces? We'll have maybe 150 ships by then. Good ships with good crews, but still outnumbered 5 to 1. The president walked to his window and looked out at Earth's blue sky. Somewhere up there, human colonies were declaring independence. Somewhere up there, ordinary people were volunteering to fight an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. "David, send a message to all human forces. Tell them this: we're not fighting to win a war. We're fighting to prove that humanity deserves to be free. Win or lose, the galaxy will remember what we do in the next few days." Back at the Imperial Palace, Emperor Kethfor was dealing with his own problems. The assassination failure had created chaos throughout the Empire. Species that had been loyal for centuries were suddenly asking questions. Some were even refusing to pay taxes until the human situation was resolved. "My Emperor, Prime Minister," Valthara reported, "the Crystalline Collective has withdrawn their ambassador. The Andromedan Republic is threatening to leave the Empire entirely if we attack human civilians." "Let them leave," Admiral Zekthul growled. "Once we crush the humans, the others will remember why they need our protection." The Emperor was not so sure. The Empire had always ruled through a combination of fear and benefits. They provided security and stability, and in return, member species paid taxes and followed Empire laws. But if species started thinking the Empire was more dangerous than the threats it protected them from, everything could fall apart. "Admiral, I want you to be very careful in how you handle this human situation," the Emperor said. "Destroy Morrison and his military forces, but avoid harming civilians if possible. We need to show strength, not cruelty." "Understood, my Emperor. But what if the humans use civilians as shields?" "Then you do what you must. But remember, the galaxy is watching." As the Imperial fleet prepared to launch, Jake Morrison was receiving the best news he had heard in days. Dr. Amy Carter's discovery had reached him through secure channels, and the information was incredible. "General," reported Captain Park, who had just arrived with her battle group, "Dr. Carter's intelligence shows us exactly how the Empire's command structure works. Their ships are powerful, but they all depend on orders from a central command vessel. If we can disable that ship, their entire fleet becomes confused." "That's good news," Jake said. "What's the bad news?" "The command ship will be the most heavily defended vessel in their fleet. Getting close to it will be nearly impossible. Jake studied the tactical displays showing the approaching Imperial fleet. 800 ships, armed with weapons that could destroy planets. Against that, humanity had a collection of military vessels, converted mining ships, and a few luxury yachts whose owners wanted to help. "Captain, do you think we can win?" Lisa Park looked at the displays, then back at Jake. "Honestly? No, not in a straight fight. But I don't think this is going to be a straight fight. Humans don't fight like other species. We adapt, we innovate. We find ways to win when we shouldn't be able to. Even against odds like these? Especially against odds like these. General, the Empire has been fighting the same way for 3,000 years. They're bigger and stronger than everyone else, so they just use overwhelming force. But they've never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of when we're desperate." Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. The Empire expected humans to either surrender or fight in the traditional way, ship against ship, weapon against weapon. But humans had learned to fight differently during the Martian Independence War. They had learned to use their weaknesses as strengths. "All right, Captain. Let's show the Empire what humans do when someone tries to murder them in their sleep." As the hours passed, more and more human ships arrived at Kepler 442b. They came from mining Cologne. The Imperial fleet arrived at New Colorado like a storm made of metal and fire. Admiral Zekthul's flagship, the Eternal Dominion, was twice the size of any human vessel. Behind it came 800 ships in perfect formation, their weapons. Charged and ready for battle. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Liberty, and watched the enemy fleet approach. Around him, 160 human ships waited in defensive positions. They looked tiny compared to the Imperial force, like children's toys facing real weapons. "Admiral Zekthul is requesting communication," reported Lieutenant Jennifer. "Scott, put him on screen," Jake said. The alien admiral's face appeared, looking even more threatening than before. His armor gleamed in the light of the ship's bridge, and his small eyes burned with confidence. "Human Morrison," the admiral began, "you see the power arrayed against you. My fleet can destroy every human ship in this system without losing a single vessel. I offer you one final chance to surrender." "Admiral, my name is General Morrison," Jake replied calmly, "and I have a counteroffer for you. Take your fleet and leave human space. We have no quarrel with the Empire, but we will defend ourselves." The admiral's laugh sounded like grinding metal. "You have 100 ships against my 800. You have mining lasers against my plasma cannons. You have courage, human, but courage alone will not save you. You're right about one thing, Admiral. Courage alone won't save us. But you're wrong about everything else." "Explain." Jake smiled. "You have 800 ships that all fight the same way. We have 160 ships that can fight in ways you've never seen. You follow orders from the top down. We think for ourselves. You want to destroy us to send a message. We want to survive to see our children grow up free. Pretty words will not stop plasma fire." "No, Admiral, but let me show you what will." Jake cut the communication and turned to his crew. "All ships, execute Plan Delta. Let's teach the Empire something new." The human fleet suddenly scattered in all directions. Instead of forming battle lines like traditional fleets, they broke into small groups and spread out across the solar system. The Imperial ships, trained to fight massive fleet battles, hesitated for a moment as they tried to understand what was happening. "Admiral," Captain Park reported from her position behind the third moon, "Imperial ships are moving to surround isolated human groups. They think we're running." "Perfect," Jake said. Phase 2. All mining ships begin extraction operations. The converted mining vessels moved toward the system's asteroid belt. To the Imperial forces, it looked like civilian ships trying to hide behind rocks. Admiral Zikthul ordered his fastest ships to pursue them and destroy them quickly. But the mining ships weren't hiding. They were working. Commander Rick Stone piloted the Iron Mountain through a field of metallic asteroids, his mining laser cutting huge chunks of metal-rich rock. Behind him, 20 other mining ships were doing the same thing. "Rick, what exactly are we mining for?" asked Captain Janet Foster over the communication channel. "We're not mining, Janet. We're making ammunition." The mining ships used their industrial equipment to cut the asteroids into sharp, irregular pieces. Then they loaded the chunks into their cargo launchers, devices normally used to send ore to processing ships. "All mining vessels, target the Imperial light cruisers," Rick ordered. "Fire when ready." The Empire ships expected laser fire or missile attacks. They did not expect to be bombarded with chunks of asteroid moving at incredible speed. The metal fragments tore through their shields and armor like bullets through paper. 3 Imperial ships were destroyed in the first 30 seconds. 5 more were badly damaged. Admiral Zikthul watched in shock as his pursuing vessels were crippled by flying rocks. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "Sir, they appear to be using industrial mining equipment as weapons," his tactical officer reported. "That's impossible. Mining equipment isn't designed for combat." "With respect, sir, the humans don't seem to care what it was designed for." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Beth Murphy was leading the most dangerous mission of her life. Her ship, the Defiant, was a fast courier vessel that had been modified with stealth technology. Her job was to get close to the Imperial flagship and plant a special device that Dr. Carter had designed. "Beth, you're getting too close to their patrol ships," warned her pilot, Lieutenant Mark Johnson. "I know, Mark, but we need to get within 1,000 meters of the flagship to make this work." Beth's ship was almost invisible to sensors, but it still had to avoid being seen by the naked eye. She flew through the shadow of a large Imperial cruiser, using its bulk to hide her approach to the flagship. The device she carried was Dr. Carter's masterpiece, a computer virus that could infect the Empire's communication systems and disrupt their command structure. But it had to be delivered directly to the flagship's computer core. "Beth, I'm reading massive energy buildup from the flagship's main guns," Mark reported. "They're about to fire on the planet." Beth looked at her display. The flagship was preparing to bombard New Colorado's surface, where thousands of colonists were still in underground shelters. "Not on my watch," she said. "Mark, take us in fast. Forget stealth. We're going to ram them." "Beth, that's suicide." "No, Mark. That's what humans do when someone threatens our families." The Defiant burst from the shadow of the cruiser and accelerated directly toward the flagship. Imperial gunners, surprised by the sudden appearance of a small ship, fired wildly. Most of their shots missed, but a few found their target. The Defiant's hull began to crack under the enemy fire. Warning alarms filled the cabin. But Beth held her course, flying straight at the massive flagship. "Beth, we're not going to make it." Mark shouted, "Yes, we are. Prepare for impact." The little ship crashed into the flagship's command section with tremendous force. The explosion was visible from across the solar system. For a moment, everyone thought Beth and Mark had died for nothing. Then the Imperial fleet began to act. Strangely, ships stopped in the middle of maneuvers. Others started flying in circles. A few began firing at their own vessels. "What's happening to them?" asked Captain Park. Jake checked his tactical display and smiled. "Dr. Carter's virus is working. Beth got through. Their command ship is sending confused orders to the entire fleet, but the celebration was short-lived." Admiral Zikthal, realizing what had happened, ordered his ships to switch to local command. Within minutes, the Imperial fleet was working normally again. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Scott, "the Admiral is requesting communication again. Put him on." Admiral Zechthul's face appeared on screen, and now he looked truly angry. "You destroyed my command ship with a suicide attack. You use mining equipment as weapons. You fight like barbarians, not civilized beings." "Admiral, we fight like people who want to live free," Jake replied. "Is that so hard to understand?" "What I understand is that you are more dangerous than we thought. Too dangerous to be allowed to exist." The Admiral's image disappeared, and immediately the Imperial fleet began its final attack. This time, there would be no more talking, no more warnings. The Empire intended to destroy every human ship in the system. "All ships, defensive pattern 7, Jake ordered. We're about to see what we're really made of." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The Imperial ships, trained in traditional fleet tactics, found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any rules. Human ships worked in small groups, supporting each other and covering each other's weaknesses. Rick Stone's mining ships continued to bombard enemy vessels with asteroid fragments. Captain Park's military vessels used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly and then disappearing behind planets and moons. Even the civilian ships found ways to help, using their cargo holds to deliver supplies to damaged vessels. But the Empire's numerical advantage was too great. One by one, human ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. Jake watched his fleet shrinking and knew they couldn't win through firepower alone. "General," reported Captain Park, "we've lost 30 ships. The mining group is almost out of ammunition, and the Imperial flagship has repaired its command systems." Jake looked at the tactical display. The Empire still had over 700 ships. Humanity had less than 130 left. "Sir," said Lieutenant Scott quietly, "Admiral Zechthul is targeting the planet again. He's going to bombard." The surface. Jake felt cold anger rise in his chest. The Admiral was going to kill innocent civilians just to prove a point. "All ships, new plan," Jake announced. "We're going to do something the Empire won't expect." "What's that, sir?" asked Captain Park. "We're going to win." The remaining human ships suddenly changed formation. Instead of fighting defensively, they formed into a single spear-shaped formation and drove straight at the Imperial flagship. Admiral Zechthul watched the human attack with disbelief. "They're committing suicide. All ships, concentrate fire on the human formation." But the humans weren't committing suicide. They were sacrificing everything for one chance to end the battle on their terms, as the Imperial ships focused their fire. On the attacking formation, they left their flanks exposed. The mining ships, thought to be out of ammunition, appeared from behind asteroids with one final surprise. Sam Rodriguez had been right about hiding supply depots in asteroids. But he had also hidden something else: bombs. Hug. 6 months after the Battle of New Colorado, Emperor Cuthfer stood before the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 10,000 ships floated in perfect formation around the Imperial capital world. Each vessel was armed with the most powerful weapons the Empire could build. "This ends today," the Emperor said to his assembled admirals. "The human rebellion has spread to 47 worlds. 3 major species have declared independence. Pirates and rebels attack our shipping routes daily. All of this because we failed to kill one man quietly." Admiral Morthic, who had replaced the dead Zechthul, bowed his head. "My Emperor, the Grand Fleet is ready. We will crush the humans completely. No colony will be spared. No ship will escape. When we are finished, the galaxy will remember why the Empire has ruled for 3,000 years. See that you do not fail as Zechthul failed. I will not, my Emperor. This time you are coming with us. Your presence will inspire our forces." and terrify our enemies. The Emperor nodded. He had made the decision to personally lead the final assault on humanity. The rebellion had damaged his reputation throughout the galaxy. Only a complete and overwhelming victory could restore Imperial authority. As the Grand Fleet prepared to depart, a different kind of preparation was taking place throughout human space. Sam Rodriguez's network of hidden supply depots had grown beyond anyone's imagination. Thousands of asteroids now contained weapons, fuel, food, and repair equipment. The Empire could attack any human world they wanted, but they could never cut off the rebellion's supplies. On Europa, Dr. Amy Carter was working on her greatest project yet. Using technology captured from destroyed Imperial ships, she had built a new type of weapon, one that could turn the Empire's own strength against them. "Computer, run simulation 712, she said. The laboratory's main screen showed a detailed model of an Imperial dreadnought. Amy's weapon, fired from a small human ship, struck the massive vessel and began to spread like a virus through its systems. "Excellent," Amy whispered. "It works on their largest ships, too." Her weapon was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to destroy Imperial ships with brute force, it infected their computer systems and made them turn on each other. A fleet of 1,000 ships could become 1,000 enemies fighting each other instead of their intended target. Captain Lisa Park, now promoted to Admiral, was preparing for the most important battle of her life. Intelligence reports said the Emperor himself was coming with a grand fleet. If humanity could defeat him personally, the Empire might collapse entirely. "Admiral," reported her tactical officer, "we've got confirmed numbers on the Imperial fleet. 10,000 ships, including 50 dreadnoughts and the Emperor's personal vessel, the Eternal Throne." Lisa looked at her own fleet status. Humanity had gathered every available ship for this final battle. Military vessels, converted civilian ships, mining craft, even luxury yachts whose owners wanted to fight for freedom. In total, they had just over 2,000 ships. 5-to-1 odds, she said quietly. "Could be worse." "How could it be worse, ma'am?" "It could be 6-to-1. On Earth, President Hayes was addressing the human people for what might be the last time. Every human colony, every space station, every ship in the void was listening. "My fellow humans," he said, "in a few hours, the Emperor himself will arrive. At our doorstep with the largest military force in galactic history. He comes here not just to conquer us, but to prove that the Empire cannot be defeated." The President paused, looking directly into the camera. 6 months ago, they tried to murder General Morrison in his sleep. They thought they could end our growing independence quietly, with poison in the dark. But we answered boldly. We answered with courage. We answered with unity. And we showed the galaxy that humans do not go gently into the night. On colony worlds across human space, people gathered in town squares and community centers to watch the broadcast. Children who had been born free because of Morrison's stand now faced the possibility of growing up under Imperial rule if they survived at all. "Today, we face the greatest test in human history," President Hayes continued. "The Emperor brings overwhelming force against us. He expects us to surrender or die quickly. He doesn't understand that humans fight hardest when everything we love is threatened." Jake Morrison was preparing for battle aboard his new flagship, the Defiant II, named after Beth Murphy's ship. She had survived the ramming attack on the Imperial flagship and become a hero throughout human space. Now she served as his second in command. "General, the Imperial fleet has arrived at the edge of the solar system," Beth reported. "The Emperor is requesting communication. Put him on screen." Emperor Kethvar's face appeared, and Jake could see the hatred in his red eyes. The Emperor looked older than in previous broadcasts, as if the stress of the rebellion had aged him. "General Morrison, The Emperor said, "6 months ago, you should have died quietly in your sleep. Instead, you have brought destruction to your entire species." "Your Majesty," Jake replied, "6 months ago, your agent should have succeeded in murdering me. The fact that he didn't should have told you something about humans. It told me that you are more dangerous than we realized. That is why I have come personally to end this rebellion. And I'm here to stop you." The Emperor's laugh was cold and bitter. "You have 2,000 ships against my 10,000. You have mining lasers against plasma cannons that can destroy planets. What do you possibly think you can accomplish?" Jake smiled. "The same thing we accomplished at New Colorado. The same thing we've accomplished on 47 worlds. We're going to prove that freedom is stronger than fear." Pretty words from a dead man. We'll see about that. The communication ended, and immediately the Imperial fleet began its advance. 10,000 ships moved in perfect formation toward Earth, their weapons charged and ready to destroy anything in their path. But the human fleet didn't wait for them to arrive. Using tactics perfected over 6 months of warfare, they scattered throughout the solar system and began their own attacks. The mining ships, now experienced in using asteroids as weapons, had prepared a special surprise. The entire asteroid belt had been turned into a massive trap. Hidden charges waited to be detonated, turning thousands of rocks into guided missiles. Admiral Park's military vessels used the same hit-and-run tactics that had worked at New Colorado, but on a much larger scale. They would strike quickly at isolated Imperial ships, then disappear behind planets or moons before the enemy could respond. But the Empire had learned from their previous defeat. This time, their ships stayed in tight formation and covered each other's flanks. Admiral Morthic had studied human tactics and prepared countermeasures for every trick the humans had used before. "Their formation is too tight," reported Beth Murphy. "We can't get close enough to do significant damage." Jake watched the tactical display as the Imperial fleet moved steadily toward Earth. They were losing ships, but not fast enough. At this rate, the Empire would reach Earth with most of their force intact. "Admiral Park, execute Dr. Carter's plan," Jake ordered. Lisa Park's ship launched a single small missile toward the Imperial fleet. It looked harmless compared to the massive firepower being exchanged around it. Imperial point defense systems barely bothered to target such a small projectile. The missile reached the Imperial formation and exploded in a small flash of light. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Imperial ships began firing at each other. Dr. Carter's virus spread through the Imperial communication network like wildfire. Ship after ship received corrupted orders telling them that nearby vessels were actually human ships in disguise. Within minutes, the tightly coordinated Imperial formation dissolved into chaos as thousands of ships attacked their own allies. Emperor Kethver watched in horror as his grand fleet tore itself apart. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Sir, our ships are receiving false identification signals," reported Admiral Morthic. "They think other Imperial vessels are enemy ships. Fix it." "We're trying, my Emperor, but the virus is adapting faster than we can counter it." As the Imperial fleet destroyed itself in confusion, the human ships pressed their attack. They targeted the largest vessels first, knowing that every dreadnought they destroyed would save countless lives. But the Emperor's ship, the Eternal Throne, was too well defended to approach directly. Its shields could withstand anything the humans could throw at it, and its weapons could destroy a dozen human ships with each shot. Jake Morrison made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. "All ships, this is General Morrison. I'm going aboard the Emperor's ship." "Sir, that's suicide," protested Beth Murphy. "Maybe, but if I can reach the Emperor personally, I might be able to end this war without destroying every ship in the fleet." Jake took a small shuttle and flew directly toward the massive Imperial flagship. He expected to be destroyed by defensive fire, but something strange happened. The ship's weapons didn't fire at him. Emperor Kethver was watching Jake's approach with fascination. "Why aren't we shooting him down?" he asked. "My Emperor, he's not attacking. He appears to be trying to dock with our ship. Let him come. I want to meet this human who has caused so much trouble." Jake's shuttle landed in the flagship's main bay. Imperial guards surrounded him immediately, but they didn't shoot. Instead,